Hi creators, it's Claire from Right Accounts, and today we are going to go through 3 things to do when you hate your bookkeeping. Now, if you do hate your bookkeeping, I'm going to say you're probably not alone. But what I see happen is that people accept that as a fact instead of realizing it is something you have almost complete control over. We can make it less painful, less boring, and less time consuming, which would all help you towards stopping hating your bookkeeping. Now, before we get into the steps, I want us first to acknowledge that this hatred is actually a one-sided psychological warfare. Bookkeeping is not an evil thing. It's not on a mission to destroy anyone, and it exists purely to report the figures and financial impacts of historical events in a business. So this one-sided feud is pretty much created entirely in your own mind. But that means, on the positive side, you have 100% opportunity to change that relationship to one that is helpful, collaborative, and maybe even fun. So let's dive into the 3 steps. So step number 1, firstly, is decide. You need to decide you want to change this hate into something more useful, because without that desire to change, nothing much is probably going to happen, and it is not likely to last into the long term. So let's have a think about that long term, and let's paint a picture of what would happen. So I presume you're here watching this video because you want to run a successful business. Maybe for you that involves a team, maybe working around the kids or other life commitments and passions, maybe saving up to buy that dream house. And all of these are supported by money. So what happens if you hate your finances and you hate bookkeeping? It's likely to be a stressful relationship. You're going to need to force yourself to review the money, and that warfare continues, well, forever. Because even if you outsource it, even if you get help, even if you get, to a big business with a CFO, the CEO still has to be responsible and involved in the financials, reviewing the financials, and making financial decisions. So if we change that attitude, even to just being neutral about finances and bookkeeping, I'm not saying you have to fall in love with them, you're not going to be in that constant battle to keep up. You can start using the information your bookkeeping provides to you to improve your business, which in turn may allow you to pay those team members more, work even less hours so you have more time for those kids' activities or those other passions, or get into that dream house faster. And it's not just long-term benefits of changing that hatred into something more useful. There's heaps of ones in the short term too. So if you haven't, I would recommend you check out my other blogs and videos on why bookkeeping is important, why it's good for your business, and why it's actually an opportunity to learn more about your business. And I will link to those videos in the description. So step number 2 is going to be discover. We need to figure out what you like and don't like about bookkeeping, because I'm hoping that it's not every single part, and then we need to make improvements, but that's step number 3. So it's important to figure out what you don't like and improve it slowly. So the first thing that often comes out people don't like is the money part. Facing up to your finances can be a scary business, but every time you do that, it becomes less scary because you're closer to your numbers, so you know what those numbers are likely to be, you know how much money is coming in, you know how much money is going out, which takes away a lot of that stress around budgets and managing money. And you know how much you can afford to invest in that next business thing without constantly having to worry about it. The second major place to look when we're in Discover is at the process. So is there something about the actual process you despise? Is it scanning receipts? Is it sending invoice reminders? Is it putting away cash for taxes? Because that's part of your finances too. This process piece can also come up when we punish ourselves with the have to do it all at once because you've left it until the last minute. And then the third thing that often comes up is the software or maybe the spreadsheet. If you don't like the software or the system that you're using, because it makes no sense to you. How does it come together? How does this thing work? You can never remember how you need to do that thing, and it seems either way too complicated or not detailed enough than it needs to be for your business. So 3 things to discover generally: the money, the process, or the system. And then the third thing you need to do is do. Once you figured out which part, or maybe which parts, you need to improve, then work on making those changes so you can enjoy it more or maybe just hate it less. So if we talk about money, there's no quick fix to overcoming your money gremlins, I'm sorry. And there isn't one perfect approach either. So what I would suggest get started with is shining a light on your default money patterns and then being curious about how that pattern can help you and how that pattern may hinder you and your business. So personally, I love saving money. It seems perfect, right? It seems like the perfect financial attitude. Except the flip side of that is that I can struggle to justify spending money. And that can show up for me as wasting time. I can spend hours researching, say, the best microphone or the best software package, and then another hour at least trying to find the cheapest price, and then maybe afterwards another hour of it churning through my system, making me feel, scared and anxious because maybe I purchased the wrong thing. Did I spend too much? Have I made a mistake? And I need to work on that as my default money pattern. But shining a light on it allows me to see what happens. If you don't like the process, remember bookkeeping does not need to be painful or time consuming or boring. It's totally possible to make it easier, quicker and interesting. But what I would say is start your improvements with a single thing. That one thing that really irks you the most, and spend a bit of time seeing how you could make it better. Go into that problem solving mode. So if it's scanning receipts, maybe you get somebody else to scan those receipts in for you. If it's sending invoice reminders, maybe you just set that up so the system does it automatically. There's lots of options to streamline and to make that process that little bit easier. If your Discover is software based, you can change your software. And if that means that you will log in and you will do your bookkeeping, in my humble opinion, it is 100% worthwhile. Yes, you're going to need to learn the new software, but the basic kind of functions of accounting and finance and bookkeeping are the same. The buttons, the orders, the terms may be slightly different, but overall it is the same. So if you've been using one software and you want to make a change to another, the process behind it is still the same. I will say though, there is a note of caution when it comes to software. There's a certain amount of adjustment you can make the software or the process do to match your business. But there's also a certain amount of flexibility you need in order to meet the actual functionality of the system. So it's not necessarily going to be 100% perfect if you move to a new software. And then the last thing I want to share with you is this idea of making it marginally better. If you currently hate your bookkeeping, you're not going to go to loving it overnight. There's years of potentially despair and distress, and this is a journey of evolution to get you and your finances onto the same side. So think every time you sit down to do your finances, you have an opportunity to make it 1% better. What is working? How can you do more of that? What isn't working? How can you do less of that or work around that? What's freaking you out? How can you address that? So approaching it with this constant evolution attitude removes the need for it to be perfect tomorrow. If you don't need help figuring out where you could get onto the same side, side as your finances, feel free to reach out for a free finance review chat. In about 30 minutes, we'll look at where you may be able to make it easier, quicker, and more interesting so you can enjoy your finances a little bit more. If this video has been useful, I would love you to give me a thumbs up or let me know in the comments what changes you might need to make. You can obviously subscribe to receive more content like this on making business, finance, and bookkeeping quicker, easier, and actually work for you and your business.